Imagine stepping through a hidden door, not, with your feet, but with your very consciousness. A door that opens up into these hyper-dimensional landscapes, just swirling with impossible colors and shapes. And they say beings live there, beings of unimaginable complexity.
Right.
It's an experience so profound. Apparently, it challenges everything we thought we knew about reality, about consciousness itself.
It really does.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a plunge, a really deep one, into one of the most, intriguing and unsettling frontiers of human experience. We're talking about the DMT ELVES, Interdimensional Controllers and Consciousness Manipulation Conspiracy Theory.
It's a mouthful, but yeah, a big one.
It is, and we've gathered a stack of sources for you, everything from scientific papers, first-hand accounts, online discussions. Our mission today is pretty clear. We want to unearth those extraordinary, sometimes totally overwhelming reports from the DMT experience. Specifically, these consistent encounters people have with DMT ELVES.
That consistency is key.
Exactly. Then we'll peel back the layers of the conspiracy itself. We'll dissect the, frankly, chilling claims about what these entities really are and what their alleged agenda for humanity might be. We'll look at the so-called evidence that a proponents cite. And then, crucially, we need to ground ourselves. Look at the logical counter-arguments from mainstream science.
Got to have that balance.
Absolutely. And finally, we'll maybe ponder a bit why a theory like this, so potent, so enduring, resonates so deeply, with our human craving for hidden knowledge and maybe a healthy distrust of official stories.
That innate curiosity, yeah.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Before we dive headfirst into the conspiracy part, we really need to understand the basic experience that kicks it all off. Dimethyltryptamine, DMT. What exactly is this substance that seems to open such a wild portal?
Right. Dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, is, it's a truly powerful psychedelic compound. What's fascinating is that it's actually found naturally in quite a few plants, like Psychotria viridis, Mimosa hostilis, you might know them from ayahuasca preparations, and it's in some animals too. Plus, there's this long-standing idea, though, it's still pretty controversial and largely unproven.
What's that?
That it might be produced endogenously, like inside the human brain itself, possibly in the pineal gland. But again, that's a big hypothesis still under investigation.
Gotcha. So how does it work? How do people take it?
Well, when it's smoked or vaporized, the onset is incredibly fast. We're talking seconds.
Seconds, wow.
Yeah. And the peak experience is very short, typically just maybe 5 to 15 minutes. It just immediately transports the user way beyond what we consider normal reality. Now, if you take it orally, like in ayahuasca, it has to be combined with something called an MAOI.
An MAOI?
Yeah, a monoamine oxidase inhibitor. Basically, it stops your body from breaking down the DMT too quickly. So the ayahuasca experience is much longer, more gradual. Hours sometimes.
Okay, so smoking is fast and intense. Ayahuasca is longer. But when you say beyond normal reality, just how intense are we talking here?
It's often described, pretty consistently actually, as the most intense psychedelic experience a person can have.
More than LSD or mushrooms?
Generally, yes. In terms of the sheer speed and totality of the shift in perception, a high enough dose leads to what people call a breakthrough experience. And this isn't just, seeing patterns on the walls. People report feeling like they have literally left their body.
Whoa.
Yeah, entered an entirely different, self-contained reality. The environments they describe are almost always hyperdimensional, incredibly geometric, super brightly colored, and just rapidly shifting. It defies easy description in earthly terms.
That sounds absolutely wild. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting for the conspiracy angle. The remarkably consistent encounters people report having within these states. Tell us more about these DMT ELVES or machine elves.
Absolutely. This consistency, this is the core of the mystery, and really what fuels the whole theory. These specific kinds of entities. They were famously brought into the public eye by the psychedelic researcher Terence McKenna back in the 80s. He coined terms like machine elves or self-transforming machine elves.
Okay, McKenna. And what do people actually see? What are they like?
Well, the descriptions are strikingly similar across reports. People often describe them as small, self-transforming, geometric, fractal beings. Sometimes jester-like or clown-like, maybe gnome-like.
Geometric gestures?
Sort of. They can appear to be made of pure light or sound or even just pure information. They move incredibly fast, and many people describe them as being composed of intricate machine parts, hence McKenna's name.
Machine parts?
Yeah.
Wow. And what are they doing in there? Are they just there? Or did they interact?
Yeah. Oh, they definitely interact, according to the reports. Their behavior is often described as playful, sometimes curious, maybe mischievous. They frequently seem to be showing the user things, presenting this rapid-fire visual information or performing these really complex operations on the user's consciousness or perception. It feels like they're doing something to you or for you.
Operations? Like what?
It's hard to say precisely. It's often felt rather than understood intellectually at the time. But users sometimes report receiving profound insights like gifts of knowledge or even direct telepathic messages from them.
Telepathic. So no talking.
Usually not verbal in our sense. Communication is often described as like chirping or singing or maybe a language of pure light and sound. It's non-human communication.
So it's not just the visuals, it's the interaction, the communication, and this consistent feeling people have that these aren't just figments of their imagination. How do people describe that sense of autonomy, that otherness?
That's absolutely crucial. The otherness aspect is what proponents find so compelling. Users consistently report that these entities feel undeniably other. Meaning not projections of their own mind, not just hallucinations, but genuinely autonomous, intelligent beings, existing in their own right, in their own space. It's not just a thought, it's a deeply felt reality during the experience.
And the fact that so many different people report this?
Exactly. That remarkable consistency across diverse individuals, different cultures, different backgrounds, even people who had zero prior knowledge of DMT or McKenna's descriptions, that's what really ignites the reality debate for believers.
It makes you ask, how could so many strangers describe such similar specific things if it was just random brain noise?
Precisely. It taps into that human need to find patterns, right? When something as, frankly, chaotic as a DMT trip yields such consistent, seemingly ordered encounters, well, it hits a deep chord. It makes the idea of some underlying hidden structure seem more plausible, maybe even more comforting than just randomness.
That consistency is really compelling. Okay, so let's take that consistency and that profound feeling of otherness. Let's connect it to the conspiracy theory. What's the core premise here? What are they actually claiming about these elves?
Right. So the core premise is basically this. The DMT elves are not mere hallucinations. Not at all. Instead, the theory proposes that they are real, active, highly intelligent, interdimensional beings.
Interdimensional, like from another dimension.
Exactly. Beings who specifically use DMT, the substance, as a kind of direct portal to interact with human consciousness. Proponents believe these entities exist on a different vibrational plane, another dimension, whatever you want to call it. A dimension that DMT allows our consciousness to temporarily access or perceive.
Okay, so not just brain chemistry, but an actual place or plane with actual beings.
That's the idea. In some versions of the theory, they're considered a form of alien intelligence, maybe from another part of the cosmos or even a parallel universe, interfacing with us via DMT.
Wow.
And then you get the more extreme versions, where these entities, or perhaps the intelligence behind them, are seen as the true architects, the programmers, even, of our perceived reality.
Like the Matrix, simulation theory stuff.
Exactly. It ties right into simulation theory or concepts like hyperreality. In that view, the DMT experience isn't just a trip, it's a glimpse behind the curtain, the peek at the source code, maybe.
Okay, that's a massive claim. So if they're real and they're interacting with us, why? What do proponents claim they actually want from humanity? What's their supposed agenda?
The DMT agenda.
Yeah,
the theory suggests several possible motivations, and none of them are exactly mundane. They're showing and teaching. Remember, the theory says that's not random. One idea is that they are subtly shaping human evolution.
Shaping us. How?
Guiding our consciousness towards specific evolutionary paths, maybe preparing us collectively for some future event, some kind of shift. Another idea is that they're directly implanting information into human minds, ideas, concepts, maybe even technological blueprints, influencing discovery, creativity from behind the scenes.
So they could be responsible for some human innovations.
That's one line of thought within the theory, yes. Or perhaps they're controlling belief systems, subtly steering what humans believe about reality, about God, about their own existence.
Okay, that's a lot. Are there darker interpretations too? You mentioned loosh harvesting in the outline.
Yes, there absolutely are darker takes. The loosh harvesting idea, which you see in some other esoteric theories like Archon theory,
Right.
suggests these entities actually feed on human consciousness or on our energetic emissions, our emotions.
Feed on us.
The idea is that the intense emotional and cognitive energy generated during a DMT trip, or maybe even just strong human emotion generally, creates this loosh, this psychic energy that they harvest, those operations people feel. Maybe that's energetic extraction,
Excellent.
unsettling.
Definitely. Other possibilities, maybe they're subtly preparing certain humans for a future, more open contact or intervention. Or if they are the architects, maybe their interactions are just about maintaining the system, debugging the simulation we live in.
Or testing us. That's another one. That the DMT experience is a kind of cosmic test or filter for human consciousness. And crucially, DMT itself is seen not just as a drug, but as a literal gateway, a biological key almost.
Because it's potentially made in our brains.
Exactly. If the endogenous DMT hypothesis turns out to be true, proponents would say, see? We have a built-in mechanism to access these dimensions. It's meant to happen.
Okay, so if this is all potentially real, and the implications are this huge, who is supposedly trying to keep it all under wraps? Who's suppressing this profound truth?
Well, the conspiracy theory usually points fingers at several usual suspects, let's say. Governments, intelligence agencies. Proponents believe they are fully aware of the reality of DMT elves and their influence.
And they classify DMT as Schedule 1.
Right. And the theory says that's not primarily for public safety, it's to prevent a mass awakening, a paradigm shift they can't control. Or maybe they want to monopolize contact, get those technological insights for themselves. Or maybe they even see the elves as a threat to be contained.
Okay, government secrecy. Who else?
Big Pharma often gets mentioned. The idea is that DMT offers these profound spiritual insights, these life-changing experiences, which you can't really patent, package, and sell like a pill. It undermines their model.
Makes sense from that perspective.
Religious institutions, too. Direct spiritual experiences, contact with seemingly intelligent, non-human entities that could fundamentally challenge established dogma and the authority of priests or scriptures, right?
Yeah, direct access bypasses the middleman.
Precisely. And then there's a really meta twist. Some versions suggest the elves themselves are subtly influencing suppression.
The elves want it suppressed. Why?
Maybe to control access, to filter who gets through, or perhaps to prevent their own dimension from being, overwhelmed by human tourists. It's a conspiracy within the conspiracy.
Wow, okay. That's a lot to take in. So we've heard the claims. What do proponents actually point to as evidence? Beyond the subjective feelings, what do they cite?
Right, the evidence. It's important to understand that from a scientific standpoint, this isn't evidence in the empirical sense. But for proponents, it's compelling information. First and foremost, number one is that remarkable consistency of entity encounters.
We keep coming back to that.
Because it's central. Thousands of people, diverse backgrounds, often zero prior knowledge, reporting strikingly similar geometric gesture-like self-transforming entities doing similar things.
You think the argument is?
The argument is, if these were just random hallucinations, purely subjective, shouldn't they be wildly different? More based on personal memory or culture? Proponents say the consistency suggests an objective reality to the entities. It just seems too specific to be random brain firings.
Okay, consistency. What else?
Number two is the otherness of the entities, that feeling we talked about.
That they're really separate.
Exactly. Users consistently report these beings feel genuinely autonomous, intelligent, not self-generated. Proponents argue this subjective feeling itself points away from a purely internal, brain-only phenomenon. It feels like a real interaction with something outside the self.
Makes sense why people would feel that way.
Third, there's the information download or teaching aspect. People don't just see things. They often report receiving profound insights, complex information, feeling like they've been taught something.
Like actual data transfer.
That's how proponents interpret it. They suggest it indicates intelligent communication, a deliberate transfer of knowledge, not just, the brain making novel connections with existing information.
Okay. And the idea about DMT being natural in the brain, how does that fit their evidence?
That's number four, the hypothesis of endogenous DMT production, even though it's unproven scientifically.
Right.
Proponents see it as absolutely crucial. If it's true, they argue, it suggests our brains are literally wired to access these dimensions. It implies a natural, maybe even intended connection, a built-in transceiver almost.
Okay, that would be significant if true.
Then, number five, they point to the historical suppression of psychedelic research.
The fact that research basically stopped for decades.
Exactly. They don't see that purely as a public safety measure or politics. They see it as a deliberate move by the powers that be, whoever they are, to suppress a tool that offers direct, uncontrolled access to truths that challenge existing power structures. Too convenient, they say.
Right. What else?
Number six, the nature of the communication. It's often nonverbal light, sound, geometry, telepathy. Proponents argue this is consistent with what you might expect from a truly non-human, perhaps interdimensional intelligence. It's beyond our typical sensory channels.
A different kind of language.
Yeah. 7, the machine aspect of the entities.
Yeah.
That fractal, geometric, sometimes machine part quality. This is interpreted as potentially linking them to the fundamental mechanics of reality itself, or suggesting a highly advanced, perhaps non-biological or even artificial intelligence, like components of a cosmic operating system.
Wow. And lastly, the Loosh thing.
Right, number 8, the Loosh connection, drawing from those Archon theories. The idea is that the intense energy generated during a DMT trip is literally harvested. Proponents connect the subjective feeling of operations being performed with this energy extraction, essentially framing humanity as a kind of energetic farm.
Okay. So consistency, otherness, info downloads, potential natural DMT, suppression history, nonverbal communication, machine-like forms, and energy harvesting. That's quite a list from the proponent side. It's definitely compelling, especially that consistency and the otherness people feel so strongly. But how does mainstream science tackle this? How do they explain so many people seeing similar, seemingly external beings if it's all supposedly happening inside the brain?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And this is where the scientific perspective takes a very different path. Mainstream science largely interprets these DMT experiences, including the entity encounters, as incredibly complex hallucinations generated entirely by the brain's interaction with the drug.
So not actual encounters with external beings.
Correct. From a neuroscience standpoint, DMT is known to act really powerfully on specific serotonin receptors in the brain, especially the 5-HT2A receptor. This action profoundly alters brain activity. It changes how different parts of the brain communicate, affecting perception, memory processing, and crucially, your sense of self or ego.
And the brain can just make all that up. The elves, the geometry.
The human brain is, frankly, an astonishingly powerful simulation engine. It's perfectly capable of generating incredibly vivid, complex, and seemingly external experiences entirely internally. Think about dreams sometimes. They feel completely real with autonomous characters. Psychedelics just turn that capacity way, way up.
Okay, but what about that consistency? Why the same kinds of elves for so many people?
That's a good point. Science doesn't necessarily have a single definitive answer, but there are strong hypotheses. The consistency of reports might be explained by the universal architecture of the human brain.
Meaning we all have similar hardware.
Exactly. And how that shared hardware responds to specific neurochemical changes induced by DMT. Think about it. Different psychedelics often produce different flavors of hallucinations, right?
Yeah, you hear about mushrooms being more organic, maybe?
Precisely. Psilocybin might evoke more earthy, naturalistic, sometimes mushroomy visuals. DMT frequently pushes towards the geometric, the hyper-technological, the machine-like. This suggests it's more about drug-specific effects on common brain structures, rather than accessing different objective external realms.
Okay, so the drug dictates the flavor based on how it hits our shared brain structure. What about the feeling of otherness? Why do they feel so real and separate?
That feeling of otherness is generally interpreted psychologically. It's a known powerful subjective effect of altered states, especially ego-dissolving ones.
Ego dissolution.
Yeah, when your normal sense of self, your ego boundary, starts to break down, which DMT does powerfully, the brain can generate these seemingly autonomous characters or entities. Because your sense of self is diminished, these internal creations feel external. They feel separate because you don't feel like the one creating them in that moment.
So the lack of me makes them feel like not me.
That's a good way to put it. Also, some psychologists, particularly Jungians, might interpret them as archetypal projections, figures from the collective unconscious, shared symbolic patterns common to all humans. Jesters, gnomes, tricksters. These are ancient archetypes found across cultures. DMT might be activating these deep layers of the psyche.
Okay. And the information downloads, the insights people get.
Science generally views these insights not as external data transfer, but as the brain processing its own information in a highly novel way. Under DMT, the brain enters a state of hyperconnectivity. Different regions talk to each other in unusual ways. So insights might be accessing subconscious knowledge, synthesizing existing ideas and new combinations, or just experiencing your own thoughts with profound emotional weight and seeming novelty. It feels like a download, but it's more like accessing and reshuffling your own internal hard drive.
Okay. And the idea of natural DMT in our brains, you said that's not really accepted.
Not widely, no. The hypothesis that the pineal gland produces significant psychoactive amounts of DMT in humans is largely unproven and remains highly controversial in neuroscience. Trace amounts have been detected in some studies, yes, but nowhere near the levels needed for the kinds of experiences we're discussing. The idea it's released during birth, death, or dreaming is mostly speculation at this point, not established fact.
Gotcha. So that pillar of the theory is shaky, scientifically speaking.
Very shaky. And as for psychedelic prohibition, the mainstream historical view attributes it primarily to complex social factors, genuine, if sometimes exaggerated, public health concerns in the 60s, and political motivations like the broader war on drugs. Not some secret conspiracy to hide elf dimensions.
So more politics and panic than conspiracy.
That's the standard historical and sociological interpretation, yes. And the fact that research is now happening, again, quite openly at major universities kind of undermines the total suppression narrative.
Right.
Finally, concepts like loosh harvesting or literal interdimensional beings. From a scientific perspective, these are simply metaphysical or spiritual claims. They fall outside the realm of what science can currently test or verify. They're matters of belief, interesting ideas, but not empirically provable phenomena based on current methods. There's just no independent, objective, scientific verification of the DMT realm or its entities outside of these subjective drug-induced reports.
Okay, so we have these incredibly powerful subjective experiences on one side, fueling the conspiracy, and on the other, a scientific framework that explains it all through brain chemistry, psychology, and known social factors, without needing elves or interdimensional portals. Yet, despite these pretty comprehensive scientific explanations, this DMT ELVES theory remains remarkably persistent. It has real staying power. Why do you think that is? What makes it stick so strongly in people's minds?
That is a really great question. And I think the answer lies in a combination of factors, touching on human psychology, the nature of the experience itself, and our relationship with knowledge and authority. First off, you absolutely cannot discount the sheer profound nature of the experience itself.
It just feels so real.
Exactly. Users often describe DMT trips as the most significant, meaningful, and yes, realer than real experiences of their entire lives. When something hits you with that level of subjective certainty and emotional impact, it's incredibly difficult to just wave it away as, oh, just a hallucination. The brain's own conviction is powerful.
The experience argues for itself in a way.
It really does. And connected to that is the consistency of reports, which we keep mentioning because it's so central. That striking similarity in entity encounters across so many different people serves as potent, almost anecdotal proof for believers. It feels like shared observation, not just individual imagination. It challenges the simple, it's all in your head explanation because, well, it seems to be in lots of people's heads in a very similar way.
Right, the pattern seems too strong to ignore.
Then there's the otherness factor. That deep subjective feeling that the entities are truly autonomous and intelligent is incredibly compelling. It feels like contact. If it feels like you interacted with something genuinely separate from yourself, that memory, that feeling is very hard to shake or reinterpret.
Yeah, that would stick with you.
Absolutely. And let's be honest, the allure of hidden dimensions or alien contact is powerful in itself.
It's exciting.
It is. The idea that there are hidden realities, vast intelligences, just beyond our normal perception, accessible through something like DMT, it's deeply captivating. It speaks to a desire for wonder, for mystery, for a universe far grander and stranger than our everyday lives suggest. It gives a sense of cosmic significance.
And maybe it taps into distrust of official explanations.
Oh, definitely. Distrust of mainstream science and authority is a huge factor. The historical suppression of psychedelic research, combined with a general and sometimes warranted skepticism towards government narratives or scientific dogma, it creates fertile ground for believing that a profound truth is being deliberately hidden.
It fits a they don't want us to know narrative.
Precisely. For many, the DMT experience feels like getting the red pill, like that moment in The Matrix, an awakening, a direct personal revelation that shows you the true nature of reality and the hidden forces at play. It's empowering for the individual who feels they've suddenly seen behind the veil when others haven't.
And maybe it offers answers people are looking for.
Yes, absolutely. The search for meaning and purpose is fundamental. For many users, these encounters aren't just weird. They offer profound spiritual insights, a feeling of connection to a larger cosmic intelligence, or a complete reevaluation of their place in the universe. That can be incredibly meaningful, comforting, even therapeutic, regardless of the ultimate objective reality.
It fulfills a spiritual or existential need.
It certainly can. And finally, you can't underestimate the cultural impact of figures like Terence McKenna, his charismatic way of articulating the machine elves, his philosophical explorations tied to the experience. They continue to shape the narrative and inspire new generations to explore both the substance and the ideas around it. He gave the phenomenon a voice and a framework that resonates.
So a mix of the sheer power of the experience, its consistency, the psychological appeal of hidden worlds and distrust, the search for meaning and cultural influence. Makes sense why it endures. Okay, so let's try to quickly recap our deep dive here. We've explored the DMT elves, interdimensional controllers and consciousness manipulation, conspiracy theory. The core idea these elves people report seeing on DMT aren't just hallucinations. They're, according to the theory, real active interdimensional beings using DMT as a portal to interact with us, maybe guiding us, maybe manipulating us, maybe even harvesting energy. And the theory suggests the suppression of DMT isn't about safety, but a deliberate cover-up by various powers to keep humanity from this, well, paradigm-shattering truth.
That's the essence of it, yeah.
Then we contrasted that with the mainstream scientific view. Neuroscience and psychology tend to interpret these experiences, however profound, as complex hallucinations generated by the brain's unique reaction to DMT. Altered states of consciousness, not altered dimensions.
Right, explaining the consistency through shared brain structure, the otherness through ego dissolution, insights as novel processing, and prohibition through social and political factors.
Exactly. Yet despite those explanations, this theory, this idea, continues to fascinate and resonate really deeply.
It does.
Its power seems to lie in that undeniable intensity and the startling consistency of the DMT experience itself, that powerful subjective feeling of encountering something truly other, and maybe that deep-seated human yearning for hidden truths, for contact, for a reality far more extraordinary than the one we perceive day to day.
Well said.
So as you ponder the incredible mysteries of your own mind and the vast unseen realms that might just lie beyond our everyday perception, consider those whispers of the DMT elves. Are they merely echoes from the deepest, weirdest corners of the human brain, a dazzling, complex show put on by neurochemical alchemy? Or could they be something more? Genuine entities, maybe? Interdimensional architects subtly tweaking the fabric of our reality, their true agenda deliberately veiled by, those who don't want us to know?
The answer, well, for now anyway, seems to remain shrouded in those luminous, bewildering, rapidly shifting landscapes the DMT experience itself. But that captivating what if? What if the machine elves are real? That question continues to echo right out there on the frontiers of consciousness.